Today is week 4 of Pantheon, Nezarec Sublime. First, we'll cover what weapons to use for the previous encounters based on what the Surge is. If you want to know mechanics for those old encounters, I'll link my first 3 Pantheon guides down in the video description. The Surges this week are Solar and Strand, meaning a lot of these encounters are going to be easier than they were in week 3. For Golgoroth, your options are either a God Roll Cataphract Grenade Launcher or a crafted Apex combined with Gallarhorn. Same thing for Caretaker, same thing for Planet Room. Remember that the Shot Caller buff is active this week, so before damage phase begins, if you can, try to bang out a few primary weapon shots to proc the Shot Caller buff. For Atrax, because it's Solar, your damage strategy is everyone on burst damage supers and Parasite. When you've expended your Parasite, swap to Lament if you can. Remember that Parasite with no worm stacks is way worse than Lament. If you do it right, you can one-floor Atrax. For Planet Room, back to either God Roll Cataphract with Bait and Switch or a Bait and Switch Apex launcher paired with Gallarhorn. Remember, you can reproc Shot Caller by shooting the boss's backpack before damage phase begins. Oryx is either grenade or rocket launchers again, but because it's Solar, you can likely get a safe 2-phase with Whisper of the Worm, provided you have the exotic catalyst. For Rolk, again, Cataphract grenade launcher team or Galley and crafted Apex Bait and Switch team. Riven is the same thing, but honestly make sure for Riven that you're really focusing on ad clear and damaging her eyes. She takes hella reduced damage in the mouth, so rely on pimple popping for major damage and don't get overly focused on mouth damage. For Nezarec, again, rockets or grenade launchers, although I've heard from reliable sources that Lament is a 2-phase. Okay, for those who don't know, why don't we talk about mechanics on how to beat Riven Legit. All right, divide your fire team into 2 groups. 3 of you head left and 3 of you head right. You will each stand on an individual plate on your end of the throne room, and when everyone is on their plate, the encounter begins. The floor will open up from beneath you, and you will slowly fall all the way down to the ground below. As you fall, you will notice that Riven is right there in front of you. Remember that. It's going to be important later. There should be 2 different doors on opposite ends of the room when you reach the very bottom floor. Remember, you should be divvied up into 2 teams of 3, so each team of 3 go into the door on that side of the room. Going through that door, and then one more, will lead you into a wide open chamber. Both chambers, no matter what team you're on, should look near identical. Now, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either Riven is going to pop her big head into the chamber that you're in, or she won't. Let's start with whatever room Riven does not appear in. You'll be hanging out and vibing, as well as shooting Taken that spawn into the room. Eventually, you're going to get a Taken captain that when you kill will drop an Eye of Riven. One player, doesn't matter who, needs to run over and grab the Eye of Riven, while another player on the team runs to the back of the room and jumps up on top of the platform/pillar thing that is there. The goal here is that the Eye of Riven carrying Guardian can see a repeating symbol, which should be called out loud. Meanwhile, the other player who ran to the back of the room and jumped up on the pillar, they're going to look out at the room and see something like this. The entire room will be filled with secret invisible symbols floating everywhere. Again, only the player standing on top of the pillar can see these symbols and where they are. It now becomes that player's goal to verbally guide their teammate holding the Eye of Riven to stand in the exact right spot and use the grenade button to cleanse the correct symbol. What symbol are you looking for? Whatever symbol the player holding the Eye of Riven called out. Use the grenade button to cleanse that exact spot. As you can imagine, this can get tricky. In time, you'll be more familiar with where the symbols spawn in. They can actually only pop up in one of 2 possible patterns overall, both of which can be seen right here. If you want, you can label one of these pictures layout A and the other layout B. That way you can just be like, okay, it's layout B, spot M3, and the person carrying the Eye of Riven could just look at this image and think, oh, okay, I gotta go stand right here. So keep these images handy. I know it's a lot of info to have, but I believe in you. Okay, meanwhile, let's talk about what should be going on in the other room, i.e. the room where Riven pops her big fugly head in to say hello. If Riven shows up in your chamber, don't panic. She's going to try to attack you, and it's gonna go one of 2 ways. Either she's going to try to go full hentai and hit you with a tentacle attack, or she's going to try to breathe fire right in your grill. If she tries to go full hentai, here's what you do. You get close to the tentacle to bait it out, then start running away. She will slam her tentacle down at you, hopefully not hit you with it, and then you and your buddies shoot the crap out of the tentacle until you flinch Riven. If she tries to hit you with the fire breath attack, get near cover, bait out the fire, don't get hit, then shoot the heck out of her mouth. Go between dodging fire and shooting her in the mouth until she flinches. Either way, when you've flinched Riven, you're gonna notice this. 2 of her eyes are going to be glowing. Most people I've spoken to go with L1 to L5 for the left eyes, and then R1 to R5 for the right eyes. You can use whatever you like, but I'm going with this for today. So when you've flinched Riven, take a mental note of which 2 of her eyes are glowing, and either call it out loud on the mic, or if you're playing on PC, type it into the chat. Now the 2 teams are going to switch jobs, meaning that if you just flinched poor Riven and made her run away crying, you're now going to do the symbol puzzle I mentioned earlier. The other team that started with the symbol puzzle, guess what? Riven is now popping her big fugly head into your room. When Riven makes her second appearance in the opposite room, she's not going to hit you with the hentai attack or the fire attack, but rather she'll have her mouth open with a bunch of black goo in the middle. You have to act quickly and DPS the hell out of that mouth. Hit it fast, hit it hard, and when Riven closes her mouth, you have to shoot the exact 2 eyes that were called out earlier by your other team. Shoot those 2 eyes that were formerly glowing, and only those 2 eyes. If you mess up and shoot the wrong eye, total team wipe. When Riven's 2 eyes have been shot and both teams have done the annoying little Eye of Riven symbol puzzle, head to the way back of the room and ride up on the now opened up grav lift. You'll get taken upstairs. You're on a new floor now, but it's the exact same scenario. 2 identical chambers, and we're gonna repeat the same encounter. Whichever side it doesn't get Riven, do your little symbol puzzle thingy. Remember though that whoever picked up the Eye of Riven last time for the puzzle cannot pick it up again. Has to be a new member of your little group. So they do that puzzle, and the other side deals with Riven. You'll dodge either her hentai attack or the fire attack, flinch her, and take note of which 2 eyes are glowing as she runs away crying. Then again, the roles reverse. Whoever flinched Riven, get going with your symbol puzzle, making sure that you have a different Eye of Riven carrier, and Riven pops her head into the opposite room. Shoot the black goo in Riven's mouth hardcore. When her mouth begins to close, shoot the exact 2 eyes that were called out by the other room's fire team. When you're done, go to the way back of the room, and again head up the new gravity lift. Now everyone, all 6 fire team members, should be back upstairs in the throne room where you started the encounter. A bunch of Taken are gonna pop into the throne room. Start killing them quickly because Riven is gonna pop in shortly whether you are ready or not. Riven will once again hit you with either her fire or hentai attack, so work with your team to both dodge the attack and flinch her. When you flinch her, 2 of her eyes will glow. Write down or take a mental note of which eyes are glowing. She's gonna move around the room and attack you 2 more times. Each time, 2 more eyes will glow. When Riven has stopped moving around the room, you should have now recorded the glowing of 6 different eyes. Hoping that you either have a really good memory or wrote down that information somewhere in your fire team chat. On the 4th instance of Riven moving, she's gonna do the thing where she opens her mouth to reveal black goo. Shoot the heck out of her mouth for big DPS, and when her mouth shuts, it is time to shoot the exact 6 eyes that glowed as she went around the room. You gotta do this fast. Ideally, you are going to assign each fire team member to shoot exactly 1 eye each. You should probably plan in advance that each time Riven moves around the room, 2 players will take note of each new eye and call it as their own eye to shoot later on. This is probably the trickiest part of the Riven encounter, and likely the part where most teams will F up and fail. Again, as long as you're all on the same page regarding who is shooting what eye, you should be good. So back to Riven, shoot her mouth until she closes her mouth, eyes start glowing, and shoot those exact 6 eyes. Riven will flinch. Now head back to your original 6 plates to restart the encounter. Huge thing to remember though, this time when the floor opens up and you slowly fall down past Riven, she will have huge glowing pimples, I guess, all over her body. You need to shoot those pimples as you fall down past Riven. Popping those pimples, I know, sounds really gross, big bonus DPS, so you absolutely want to make sure that you are not missing these as you fall past Riven. Land at the bottom floor, break up into 2 teams of 3 again, rinse and repeat. Do the entire thing all over again. Symbol puzzle, dodging Riven, shooting her in the mouth, The whole thing. Do it all over again. Eventually, when you've done enough damage to Riven that you've reached the final portion of her health bar, you're in the home stretch. You'll all get teleported into a shadowy Taken realm where you'll have to do kind of a jumping puzzle. Kill Taken and climb up the floating debris. You're trying to go up, so just keep that in mind. Try not to get booped off or to bump into each other. At the very top of the jumping puzzle, there should be one orb of Taken strength waiting for you. Any one person on your team only needs to touch that Taken strength, and you will all get teleported back into the throne room one final time. This is Riven's final stand. Shoot her in the mouth until it looks like she's dead, but she's not really actually dead. Everybody run into her open mouth. I'm not kidding, go inside of Riven until you find her heart. Yes, her literal, actual heart. Shoot it and shoot it and shoot it until it blows up, and boom, Riven is now dead. All right, here's how to kill Nezarec. You'll find yourself in a wide open area. Here's a diagram. Graphic design is my passion. Divide yourself up into 3 teams. 2 runners, 3 players on ad clear, and 1 player on Nezarec babysitting duty. The runner's job, in a nutshell, is to activate every plate in the room one at a time, starting at the very first plate that has a glowing aura on it, either light or dark. The runners will stand on the plate and shoot the glowing object, obtaining the corresponding buff. They will then run to the next plate, but only if it looks like this, aka if there's a glowing black orb in the center. Going back to my diagram of the room, the path of the next plate you have to go to won't always be 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. In short, these are just plate callouts, not necessarily the route that the runner has to take every time. Your exact plate path might change a little bit from run to run, so just be aware. Anyway, when you find the plate with the black orb and shoot it, you activate the plate with the buff you were carrying. Now you have to turn around, run back to the last glowing aura plate, and reacquire the buff by standing on the plate and shooting the orb again. Rinse and repeat. You're getting the buff and delivering it to a black orb plate and depositing the buff and doing that over and over. 1 runner on the left, 1 on the right, and keep reacquiring the power and spreading it to whatever the next plate is until all the platforms on either side of the area are done. While the runners are doing that, Cabal in the area are going to be going crazy, so ad clear team, make sure you're popping off. I recommend 1 on the left, 1 on the middle, and 1 on the right. Keep it easy. New mechanic. There are shielded centurions that need the light or dark buff in order to have their shields broken. Deal with this by having 2 ad clear people occasionally get the buff in order to kill them. Or you can do what we did, equip blinding grenade launchers and render them useless for the entire fight. Also, tormentors occasionally show up. Our team ignored them and blinding launched them in order to deal with them. Now, the player on Nezarec babysitting duty, you have a really important job. During the fight, Nezarec will begin harassing players at random. You don't want that to interfere with the runners doing their thing, so the babysitter's job is to make Nezarec focus on them. When the encounter begins, babysitter, shoot both of Nezarec's shoulders and take note of the color that flashes after you do. It'll be either orange or white. More on that in a minute. Eventually, Nezarec's chest will glow, and when it does, shoot and break it. He'll then jump off his perch and run around down on the ground level with y'all. Now all you have to do is just hold his attention, dodge his attacks, and live while the ad clear people ad clear and the runners run. Okay, real quick, going back to what color Nezarec flashes when you break his shoulders. The color is important to prevent a wipe mechanic during the fight. Eventually, Nezarec will flash very, very brightly and explode, and everyone will die. Here's how to not die. Whatever color Nezarec flashed when you broke his shoulders, one of the runners will need to get the aura of the opposite color and take that aura to a plate of the same color that Nezarec flashed and shoot the orb there. Players who join you on that final plate will get a refuge buff on their HUD. Having that buff active when Nezarec explodes will allow you to live through the wipe mechanic. To recap, if Nezarec flashes orange, have a runner take a light aura to a dark plate, and if Nezarec flashes white, have a runner take a dark aura to a light plate. Tank the wipe mechanic and have the runners return to running. New mechanic, you can't stand on a plate for too long or it will blow up and everyone will die. So when you get the refuge to tank Nezi's wipe mechanic, don't stand on the plate, grab the debuff and keep moving. When every plate has been activated, it is damage time. Nezarec will get hit with a beam of light indicating damage can now begin. Again, you can't stand on the plate for too long because it will blow up. Your best bet is to do moving DPS with Nezarec if you can. At the right side of the map near where you spawn in, there's a route off to the side that you can jump over to do DPS. This is actually a really great cheese spot, but be warned, you have to lead him over there to the area in advance before damage phase begins. If you're struggling with dealing moving damage, try out that strategy. Drop a Radiant Well and hit him with your best DPS DPS. Rinse and repeat until you reach final stand, which is really just a delay before you can hit him with more damage. When he's dead, GG, you're done. Check the pinned comment for updated strats if I find there are any. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.